The zombies can't eat your butt if you roll around. It's called the 5-second rule. Oops, sorry, I'm a girl driver. I can't believe this steak costs $75. Inflation sucks. Is it fair to say that Resident Evil 6 jumped the shark? Or that it bit off more than it could chew? Or how about the statement that it wanted so hard to be an epic that succeeded that it just kind of failed? At the end of the day, all of these mean the same thing. That Resident Evil 6 was super ambitious. Yet it failed to meet both fans and Capcom's expectations. In the modern day, people either loathe this game or they love it. I'm somewhere in the middle. See, when I was younger, I played Resident Evil 4 and 5 like crazy. Those are some really good games I liked. And while I didn't own them, I was able to try 2 and 3 from an older cousin of mine. However, Resident Evil 6, I barely played. My friend had it at the time, and we'd play it at his house. But outside of that, I very rarely had much interest in playing it. So my opinion of it became very neutral as just another polarizing Resident Evil game. I didn't think much of it. However, seeing as how I covered Resident Evil 5, and I really like that one, and Resident Evil 6 is also similarly action-focused, could I like it? Is it good? Or is what people say about it true? Well, there's only one way to find out, and that is to take a look at Resident Evil 6. Also, before we start, if at any point in this video you feel as if I have earned your subscription, subscribe. I want to hit 200 subs before the end of 2026. And if you want to stick around for the journey, I'd be more than happy to have you along. But enough shameless promotion. Let's go ahead and get right into Resident Evil 6. RE6 opens with the one and only Leon F. Kennedy escorting another female agent by the name of Helena to a zombie-filled city.
To give up now.
And I just want to say, please, Leon, save some brunette fatties for the rest of us, okay? We can't all match your sex appeal. This opening ends with a giant BOW, and boom, we get a nice title sequence. So, okay, obviously this game is about Leon Kennedy. I mean, there's no way, holy shit! 4 campaigns? Yes, you heard me right. 4 campaigns. Each one centers around a specific character, and with the other characters interacting with each other's stories and popping in every now and then. Now, multiple stories aren't anything new in the franchise. It has been done before. An example would be Resident Evil 2, which does this very well. However, in Resident Evil 6, I think that the amount we have here is too much. Each campaign is only like 5 or 6 hours long, and that doesn't leave a lot of room for the story and the characters to really build up, which, in my opinion, can lead to the story feeling rushed for each individual character. And it can feel like crucial moments just fly by. Another big thing that I want to note here is that every single campaign has 2 playable characters in it. Returning from RE4 and RE5 is the option to play in 2-player mode, both online and local. Now, I'm not going to get into the 2-playable character system yet. I'll say that for a little bit later on in the video. There is something I want to address though. Since Resident Evil 6 has 4 stories going on, I won't be able to properly summarize the whole game's story like I would in my other videos covering a single game. It's not that I don't want to, but if I did, we would be here forever. I would much rather focus on why the game struggles to tell its story, rather than just giving you guys a bunch of cliff notes. So, Resident Evil 6's grand overall story, as simplistic as I can get it, is that a new group called Neo Umbrella created the C virus. They want to release it all across the world. The C virus makes you a zombie much faster than any other virus and has a much higher chance of mutation. Everybody's campaign is about them trying to handle this virus and stop it from spreading across the world. And yes, I do like this in concept, in theory if you would. However, I think the big problem here is that Capcom bit off way more than they can chew. See, Resident Evil 2 has multiple campaigns as well. It has two of them, Leon and Claire. And that game did its story really well. You got two different perspectives of the same event. Here, it's the exact same premise, but now it's four perspectives. And while it worked in RE2 since there were only two, here there are four, meaning each person has less time for their own story. But here's the issue. The pacing. RE6 feels like it's always rushing. Every character's story is moving at a breakneck pace, which makes it hard to really sit with the emotional moments. These important, impactful events happen too quickly, and before you can process them, the gang moves on to the next thing. It makes it difficult to form a real emotional connection to what's going on. For example, in Leon's story, there's a moment early on where he wants to protect a group of civilians and get them out of the zombie outbreak. Everything seems to be going okay at the end, until the bus you're escaping on catches fire. The people you saved just moments ago from these zombies die in the flames of this giant fire. Leon promised to get them to safety. He failed. Leon, someone who deeply cares about helping people, is heartbroken, but the game very quickly moves on. Leon acknowledges the tragedy at first, but then Helena's like, there's no time to grieve, we have to keep moving. Like, come on, Helena! The dude's having to relive Raccoon City all over again. Let him breathe for 5 minutes. Then we have the church sequence. After escaping the outbreak, they find refuge in a church, filled with other refugees. But things go south way too fast when the civilians hiding in the church get infected, all because there's a BOW lurking in the underground lab. Leon needs to have more of a reaction here. This was a direct result of Helena's decision to go there. And while she disagreed with Leon about saving the civilians, there was never any follow-up conversation. It's like they just brushed past this emotional moment, leaving it unresolved. A brief, honest conversation between them about what just happened would have added depth to this situation. Like I said just a little bit ago, Leon's big characteristic is that he cares about people. He wants to do good. And in this big zombie apocalypse, he's having to fight with the issue of him not being able to save people. And it's not just Leon either. Chris's story has its own emotional moments that I think are really well done. But again, the pacing hurts them. Chris is constantly haunted by losing members of his previous BSAA squad in a mission in Europe. As the story progresses, he has to watch more and more of his team die, making the pain of feeling like he's reliving the past more personal. But this emotional weight is often glossed over way too quickly. The big climax of Chris's story comes when his partner appears in an act of ultimate sacrifice, injects himself with the C virus to save Chris during a boss fight. But once again, it's rushed. There's no time for it to really sink in to the very last minute. Imagine if we had more time to see their bond grow throughout the campaign. The sacrifice would have felt so much more impactful if we had more time to connect with the both of them. See, this is RE6's biggest issue, in that it rushes key emotional moments and it doesn't give them time to breathe. It constantly wants you to feel action. It constantly wants you to rush forward. And this creates a sense where you can't just sit and let a scene sink in. There's no room to breathe. Each individual story, while great on its own in concept, really doesn't have the time to fully extend into what it could be. Now, most people will say that if you like RE6, it's probably for the gameplay. The gameplay is what really shines. RE6 is a little different than other RE games. You have way more freedom of movement, as well as everything's a lot faster. You move faster, you sprint faster. While sprinting, you can slide around and roll around, and your weapons are also faster in general. On top of that, enemies also get stunned a whole lot more, and when an enemy is stunned and you run up to them, you can actually pull off some insane WWE style takedowns.
Hold on!
RE6 allows you as a player to be super aggressive, and it is fun, but I'm not sure if that's a good fit for Resident Evil, even if I do kind of like it. When I play Resident Evil, I want to be a little nervous about the enemies. I want to have a good sense of tension while I play, because it's a horror game and I like when enemies are a challenge in a horror game, especially Resident Evil. While it is super fun to be aggressive and bring the fight to the enemy, I can't say I enjoyed every single minute of it, because after a while it does get a little boring. Once I beat Leon's story and started Chris's, I found myself skipping most enemies I could just because I didn't find them that fun to fight. Chris's story is a lot closer to a third-person shooter than a tense horror game, and I wasn't the biggest fan of it. I eventually adopted the same mentality I had playing the game as I do at work. Get to the end doing as little as possible, and if something comes up, let it be somebody else's problem. I understand that there are people out there who really like RE6 for the style of gameplay, and that's fine if you like it, but I don't like it. I would be lying to say if I enjoyed every room full of enemies I came across. I just didn't find it fun for more than a few sessions. It also doesn't help that a big part of the game's levels are just get to the next doorway. As a result, blowing past everything and just getting to the door is a viable strategy to beat each level. And as a result, that's kind of what I did. There's nothing really stopping you from blowing past every enemy you get the chance to and just getting to the end and waiting for your partner to catch up. This brings me to the partner system. Just like RE4 and 5, you have a partner with you that helps in fights, cross gaps, and you can play 2-player mode. But the major difference in RE6, in single-player mode at least, is that your partner doesn't have their own inventory, health, or a real need for your input. While it made playing easier since I don't have to do double duty and manage 2 different characters,
Right out of here.
it also made me not care about my partner. If they got in trouble, most of the time they could get themselves out. With Ashley and Sheva, they had health bars. Sheva had her own inventory and could help you in fights. And over the course of the campaign, I grew to care about them. So, making sure they were okay and helping them actively helped me. Here, though, I never felt the need to assist my partner. Pretty much ever. One thing I did really like about Resident Evil 6 had to be the bosses, funny enough. A lot of the issues I had with the basic gameplay and level design doesn't really affect any of the boss encounters, as they're all still really fun to fight. You've got the ability to zip around in the arena with impressive speed, and with all the ammo you've got, you can really lay into these bosses. They're designed to challenge your toolkit instead of just being another obstacle. A lot of the standard enemies, they just get in the way. But the bosses, man, they're tailored for your speed, your firepower, and the agility your character has, which keeps things engaging. And let's not forget about how memorable these bosses are. Each one stands out with its own unique method of taking them down, no matter which campaign you're playing. This really sets each character apart. You get a different experience depending on who you're controlling, and that makes boss fights feel fresh and interesting every time I play. Also, I want to point out, if this kind of bioweapon actually exists in real life, every single man is fucked. If it weren't for the bosses, Resident Evil 6 would have been a much tougher sell for me. I'm not exactly a huge fan of the game overall, but those boss fights, they were the saving grace. Honestly, they were the one thing that kept me engaged. Without them, I doubt I would have stuck around as long as I did. They took a game that felt really frustrating and kind of meaningless at times, and made it worth playing. And that says a lot considering how hit or miss the rest of the game can be. Now, I want to let people know why the game is designed this way for those who have never played Resident Evil 6. And the answer is Call of Duty. After RE5, Capcom didn't know where to take this series. Slower paced survival horror just wasn't as popular anymore. The action-focused FPS games like Call of Duty were just dominating, and Capcom wanted a piece of that action. So they made RE6 hyper fast with lots of bullets, intense speed, and non-stop action. But there was a big problem, and that is that they didn't know how to fit these elements into the Resident Evil formula. You still have a lot of the old aiming systems from RE4 and 5, the same zombie stun melee mechanics, the epic boss fights are still here, but they don't mesh well with the action-focused gameplay. In my opinion, it feels like nobody just stopped and said, hey, a lot of this is overkill. Look, I'm no expert in game design, I don't know everything, and I don't know everything when it comes to making a game. But as an action game, RE6 is fine. It's not amazing, it's fine. As a horror game though, it misses the mark. A lot of people love it for the action, but RE6 lacks the balance between tense, scary moments and over-the-top action segments that RE4 and RE5 had, and heck, later games like RE8 and 9 had. RE6 just goes too far into action without enough horror and a lack of proper balance between these elements. So now that the dust has settled, what do I think about Resident Evil 6? Look, I don't hate Resident Evil 6, but I also don't really like it. I just think that Resident Evil 6 isn't for me. The game is way too fast-paced for my liking. There's way too many guns and ammunition for it to be an effective horror game, and most importantly, it just didn't have enough time with people like Leon, Chris, even Jake and Sherry, for as little as I talked about them. I will admit that yes, there are some things Resident Evil 6 does well. It has really good boss fights. It has some great level of spectacle, And there's a lot of really cool ideas it does have for new monsters and new bioweapons. However, it's not what I'm looking for in a Resident Evil game. If you like Resident Evil 6, that's fine. You're allowed to like it. I'm not going to police you on it. But if you don't like Resident Evil 6, that's fine too. I can see why some things are liked by one person, while some things are despised by other people. It's a nuanced game with many different people. There are some people who like this game, and this game got them into the rest of the series. And that's great. But for me and many others, RE6 is just not the game for us. RE6 did lead to one other thing, and that was its sequel. That game was Resident Evil 7, which, by my account and many others, saved not just the franchise, but Capcom as a whole. But next time, we will be taking a look at Resident Evil 7.